Okay, I don't know. Whatever it is, it's not right on the teleprompter. I don't know what that is. I've never seen that.
No, there it is. We are going to do Sting, yeah.
Okay, but
Okay.
yeah, I can't read it. There's no words on it.
Okay. Ready? Sure.
There's no words there. To play us out. What does that mean? To play us out.
Sting is going to do. It's a video. Sting video. Okay.
What is
for credits?
I don't know what that means. To play us out. What does that mean? To end the show?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, go.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it.
Okay. In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with a. I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live.
Right.
Fucking thing sucks.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks again for watching. We'll leave you with Sting and a cut off his new album. Take it away.
Do it! Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true! Just do it!
We obviously didn't communicate clearly. We're here to discuss your surrender, not mine.
Tú eres tan romántico molestando con una vipa. Me preguntas si te quiero. Yo te digo que no estoy lista y no quiero comenzar. No hay nada que pensar. Yo te dejaré atrás. Mientras gano más y más. No estás en mi nivel y tú no eres obligación. No estás motivada y tú aburres mi corazón. Eres un idiota sin inteligencia y razón. Entonces déjame tranquila y te escriba tu canción. Tú eres tan romántico molestando con una vipa. Me preguntas si te quiero. Yo te digo que no estoy lista y no quiero comenzar. No hay nada que pensar. Yo te dejaré atrás. Mientras gano más y más. No estás en mi nivel y tú no eres obligación. No estás motivado. Corazón. Eres un idiota sin inteligencia y razón. Entonces déjame tranquila mientras escriba tu canción. Estoy aquí a disfrutar. Estoy aquí pero quiero gozar. Si quieres a mí pero vamos a bailar. Cintura a cintura papi tra tra tra. Bailando, gozando y me gusta tomar. Pero no quiero pendejos que no quieren respetar. Déjame pendejo papi ya no más. Déjame pendejo papi ya no más. Estoy aquí a disfrutar. Estoy aquí pero quiero gozar. Si quieres a mí pero vamos a bailar. Cintura a cintura papi tra tra tra. Bailando, gozando y me gusta tomar. Pero no quiero pendejos que no quieren respetar. Déjame pendejo papi ya no más. Déjame pendejo papi ya no más.
What is up, mi gente? It is your boy Luis Martinez, aka Big Chief Burrito, along with my co-host at Sofia Carrillo.
That's me. Hi.
How's it going, Sofia?
It's going well. How's it going for you?
We're live on a Saturday. It's an
I
interesting
know.
night.
Yeah.
We're here. Mi
That's
Gente
right.
Show, Two Latinos React. Real quickly, we started the show probably, we're 5,000 downloads into an episode, about 24 episodes in, and the goal of this show was always to have a different type of podcast. Sophia is a actress. I'm a director. She's also has a master's degree. I'm also a poker player, and just to have some two Latinos reacting. Literally, we just wanted to react to losing culture, and then we wanted to do a Latino spotlight, emphasizing one Latino talent, creative per week. But we want to thank everybody that's helped us along the way, because the show is growing exponentially, and we're doing really good, man. And today I think is a really prime example of that, and a good moment for the show, because if you would have told me when we started the first episode that we would have the creator and lead actor of one of the biggest shows of last year, a Hulu show that just got renewed for season 2, probably the number one Latino comedy in on TV right now, I would be like, yeah, absolutely, we're gonna do it. Yeah, I totally believe in this. So we're really, really happy to welcome our guests. I'm not gonna say let's welcome this fool because he's probably heard it 8,000.
He's heard it a billion times.
But from the hit Hulu show, this fool, who is currently shooting season 2, comedian, actor, filmmaker, Chris Estrada.
Woo!
Hey, how you doing, Luis? How you doing, Sophia?
Welcome, Chris. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I know you have a busy schedule, man. Let's get right into it. How's season 2 coming along, man?
Oh, really good. We're just finished our 5th week of shooting it, so we got 4 to 5 more weeks, I think. So we're halfway through, and it's been going really good. I'm really excited about it. I think it's a better season.
Oh, okay. How long have the shoot days been?
Pretty standard, like pretty long, 12 to 13-hour days. I'm 12-hour days, and then I'm usually there for about 13.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Nice. What is let's get into a little bit of the background of the show. Obviously, we haven't had you on, and you started off as a comedian, as an actor, right?
No, stand-up comedian. I started up. I probably the only thing I really acted in was like a lot of stand-up comedians in LA. Like they make sketches and stuff like that. Especially the scene I came out of. It's kind of like known as the alternative comedy scene in Los Angeles. That's really the scene I like kind of came out of and got buzzing. And a lot of those people are kind of like they make sketches and they make stuff. Right. So as far as acting, that was the most acting I ever did. But really, it came from being a stand-up comedian and a writer.
Wow. I know you started stand-up when you were 29, right?
Yeah.
What prompted you to like start? Is that something you've always wanted to do, or?
Something I always wanted to do. I just wasn't doing shit with my life. I was just kind of being a loser, I was like, I had like 3 jobs, and I didn't go to college, so I didn't have like kind of an academic career to fall back on or anything. I was working as a valet driver. I was working as a catering company and working construction. So I had like 3 jobs throughout my life in my 20s. So I had 3 jobs so they can pay me what one shitty job would pay me.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. So, I was kind of doing that for a long time, but I was always a big fan of like narrative writing, and I like writing. I like comedy writing. I was a big film buff. So when I started stand-up comedy, I was just kind of like, damn, it's kind of now or never. And 29 is kind of it's not a young age to start at. Like when I started comedy, a lot of the people I was doing comedy with at open mics they were like 19, 20, 21. Yeah. So,
I started like at 14, right?
Yeah. And, some people start really young, and I started at 29, but it's kind of good. I mean, I didn't start with the intentions to like become like get a TV show, or I really just started with the intentions of I always wanted to do it. And I think when you're writing, when you're kind of writing scripts or you're writing narrative, you're kind of by yourself all the time, and you don't have an audience for anything. And I thought, and it kind of takes a long time for people to want to read anything you have, or, Yeah. So what ended up happening is I thought, I always loved stand-up comedy. I was a big stand-up comedy fan. And I just thought I should just do that, because I had lost my nighttime job. So I thought my nights were free. And I just have a relationship, and I was just like looking to really kind of distract myself, and I started stand-up around, right at 29.
Do you remember the first so like I've always wanted to try stand-up, because I write comedy, and I think I'm like a sit-down comic, I guess is what I would call myself, like conversationally. But do you remember when you were thinking about doing stand-up, did you walk around like thinking about bits, thinking about like, were you creating like a type 5 in your head, or when you decided, did you just sit down and just say, okay, this is joke 1, or were you always sort of thinking about stuff?
I was always thinking about stuff because I was a comedy fan. I was already like consuming comedy albums for years, and I really there's a lot. I bought comedy albums. I listened to comedy albums, and I listened to like stuff like comedy radio. Like I would listen to like Opie and Anthony, and they'd have a lot of comedians on, or I'd listen to podcasts. So I had an understanding of the world and like the vernacular, like what 5 minutes are, what 3 minutes are. So and what bits are, like what a setup, what a punch, what a tag was, and also just really like the difference between a one-liner joke and a bit. So yeah, and that's really how I was already kind of thinking of stuff, and everything I wrote beforehand was kind of that that was either scripts or like narrative was I tried to write in the world of funny.
Was it like the older comedy idols like Pryor, Cosby, or was like Mitch Hedberg, Carlin? What was like what did you gravitate towards comedically?
Oh, geez, man, like a lot of things, really. I mean, I think one of my favorite comedy albums was Dave Attell's Skank for the Memories. That was a big album for me. There was a comedian named Greg Giraldo that came out of New York. He had this album called Across the River. There's another comedian named Maria Bamford. She had an album called Unwanted Thoughts. But I also really enjoyed George Carlin. I really liked Richard Pryor. I loved Patrice O'Neill, Louis C.K. So I was really taking in a lot of comedy at that time. And so it was kind of a range of things. I liked a lot of modern stuff that I was listening to at the time. But I also, like, when I was in high school, like, my buddy Miguel, he would bump, like, we would chill in his car and listen to like Richard Pryor albums.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Nice.
Patrice and Geraldo gone too soon, obviously. RIP those guys. So you start getting into the comedy, you start walking around, and then how do you make that jump to like your first open mic, or do you start practicing with your friends, or how do you make that leap?
You just kind of decide to go to an open mic. You find out where one is. At the time, there was a blog called Split Sider, and it really followed like LA comedy and New York comedy and comedy in Chicago. So they had a list of open mics, and through there I found this website called Comedy Bureau that this guy named Jake Kroger, he's kind of like he's a bit of a tastemaker in Los Angeles, in that like he runs a website where you can find all the open mics, all the shows. So it's kind of your map, like your guide. But before that, I one of the first rooms I went to, I was living in South Central, so I knew of some kind of like black open mics over there, where it's mostly like black crowds, black comedians, but they were really close to like where I lived, so those were the first spots I went to. And then after that, I started going to like Silver Lake and Los Feliz and Echo Park, and then they had a lot of open mics, which was a little more of the like alternative comedy scene. Then I started going to Santa Monica, Hollywood, more like clubs, mainstream clubs and stuff like that for their open mics.
That's awesome. I know that like living in LA, like obviously this is all very accessible, to you want to enter a certain industry. It's all very much there. Do you find that stand-up comedians kind of support each other or more compete? Like what's kind of the vibe there as a community, I guess?
I guess stand-up comedy is really accessible because you can just go sign up at an open mic. Like, so that's how accessible it is. And you don't have to be good. Nobody's expecting you to be good. If anything, everybody expects open mics to be bad. And you get excited when someone's good. So open mics are, I mean, stand-up, as far as entertainment went, because I grew up in LA and like, like my mom didn't speak English and I was a single mom. And like, so the idea of like entertainment being accessible like as a consumer, it was accessible because you could go to movie theaters, you could go to like all these places. But as someone who, as partaking in it, because of like where I was kind of growing up and culturally and economically, it didn't seem accessible to me. It kind of felt like it was a world away. But stand-up comedy is really accessible because you could just go, like I said, you could go to an open mic and just sign up. But what I would say that, at least from my personal thought, is that a lot of comedians, not all comedians, but a lot of comedians do help each other, because there's kind of this saying in that when you're a comedian, you get jobs from other comedians. And I feel like I'm a testament to that, because the guys I created the show with, Jake Weissman, Matt Ingerbretson, and Pat Bishop, they were comedians, and they had a show on Comedy Central before this fool. It was called Corporate on Comedy Central, and it was really funny show, really kind of fucked up, dark workplace comedy. And they, I knew them as comedians, and they knew me as a comedian. They were a class ahead of me. They were like 5 years ahead of me in stand-up, but they knew me as a comic, and those were the guys that like came to me to like want to work on a show together. So, I think one time I was asked, like, why didn't you do this show with some, like, what's homegirl who does the homegirl Eva?
Like Eva Longoria, or
yeah, like Longoria,
Mendez, Longoria.
Yeah, Longoria, I think, or Eva Mendez, and there's like, why didn't you do a show with them? And it's like, well, I don't know them, and they didn't know me. Like I come from stand-up comedy, and like, comics help each other. At least the comics that I know help each other, and that I'm friends with.
They help each other by also being incredibly cruel to each other, right? by letting you know when a bit's not working, and kind of helping each other out like this.
Yeah.
One of the things that we've heard about stand-up comedy in terms of New York versus LA is that it might be easier for a younger comic in New York because you can move around the city so quickly that you can go to the Comedy Cellar and then go Caroline's and then go somewhere else and do 2 or 3 different spots. Whereas in LA, you might have to drive all the way across town or something like that. Did you find that part of it at all difficult, trying to get stage time or trying to make the most of it?
I mean, I think you have to work hard. I'm just a big proponent. I love New York comedy, and I think some of my favorite comedians are New York comedians. And I really do think New York has the best comedy. However, I think you can do a lot here. And I think because I'm from here and I knew the lay of the land, and I had a car and I knew how to get to places, I think if you just time your night out and because I used to do like 4 to 5 open mics a night. So it's and that's that wasn't all the time, but there's really no reason why you can't do 2 to 3 a night in LA, and especially pre-pandemic, like pre-COVID. You were able to do 3 a night easily. I think that number is probably a little smaller now. Like you probably can't do as many, but I think it's just different. It's a different city. You got to be out and about more.
Did you ever make the drive down to La Jolla, down to SD?
Yeah, I remember. I remember going down to San Diego just to do open mics.
Nice.
Because it kind of introduces you to another scene, and then you can acclimate yourself to, like, if other comics are like, yo, this cat's from LA and you do well, they're like, hey, come back in 2 weeks from now and do my show on Saturday or Wednesday or, Friday or whatever.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, thanks, Kurt, for stooping by.
Kurt.
So I want to get into the show, obviously, but as a comedian, you make that leap, you start connecting with these comics, they come from the show, and then you get the green light to make the show. How did at the time, did you feel like a lot of pressure in that situation? Like I'm getting this chance now and I don't want to mess it up, or were you pretty confident because of the team that you had around you that you were going to be able to make something worthwhile and that people were going to resonate with?
It was all incremental. So like when the guys that I created the show with hit me up to work on something together, it's 3 guys, like I said, Jake Weissman, Matt Ingerbretson, and Pat Bishop. When they hit me up, my only thought was, oh, cool. It'll probably go nowhere, but I'll really learn how to do something. Like I'll work with guys that I really respect, and I'll probably learn a few things. And then when we pitched the show to Hulu and they paid us to write a pilot, my thought was, well, I'm always kind of cynical about a lot of shit. Like at least I feel like I'm pretty like doomy about shit. Like it's not gonna work out. So my thought was, I'll learn a lot. We'll do a really good job. I'll make this pilot the way I want to make a pilot. Like I'll write it the way I think it should be written, the way I think best represents me. And then, but I thought they'll probably say no to it, Then when we turned it in and they liked it and they gave us the green light to film a pilot, again, my thought was, well, we'll probably film a pilot, but they'll say no to it. And
Yeah.
but at least I film a pilot. Like at least I shot a whole pilot, and I know, and I probably got a new set of skills, and that will help me in the long run. But when they said yes to it, I was like, oh shit. And really, I mean, again, it started with the same thing again. I was kind of like, well, we'll do a season, and they probably won't give us a season 2. But at least I did a whole season of a TV show.
And then you
I
got a
learned lot
season
of
2.
skills. Yeah, and then I got a season 2. I feel like if I just keep not believing in whatever I do, I think I think I'll probably
It's the opposite of manifesting. You just got to be
Yeah.
cynical and say it's not going to happen, and then it
Yeah,
happens.
it's not gonna happen. Yeah.
It's like when you're with a girl and you're like, I'm gonna try to grab her butt. She's probably not gonna let me grab her butt, but at least I tried. And it's like, hey, she let me grab her butt. Let's go. Let's keep going.
When you catch a case after.
All right, and then the cast, because obviously Frankie Quinones obviously comes on. Then you got like Michael Imperioli all of a sudden in there. Like, what was it like getting all these people, like seeing these names on the call sheets? Like, were you part of the casting process for that and like making recommendations as well?
Yep. Yeah, I was part of the casting. I'm an EP on it, and I'm one of the writers. So me and my showrunners, we kind of share. We do everything by committee. It's 4 of us, and we do everything by committee. And so Frankie kind of came because he's a friend of ours. He's not only a friend of mine, but he's a friend of the showrunners. They know him as well from stand-up comedy, and we all have mutual friends. And I used to go on the road with Frankie as a comedian. And so when it came to auditioning him, we asked him to audition, and he was great. He was so funny, and he made the character more human in a funny way. So, it was really easy to want to work with him, just being a really good friend with him. And then Michael Imperioli came from, they wanted us to offer it to a big name. And I was walking around with a friend one night. This was during the pandemic. And I was like, man, they want us to offer it to someone. And I was like naming names. And he said, you should offer it to Michael Imperioli. And my thought was, he'll never say yes. Like, Right. And then he said, no, you'd be surprised. Like, you never know. You should ask him. And then we offered it to him, and he said yes. And that was the best case scenario, because aside from being a big like Sopranos fan, I like all the other stuff he's done, like Summer of Sam and all the other work. And like,
it's so against type. It's so against his type. It's like a complete departure from like his other stuff.
And that's what was interesting. And I think he helped make the show. He gave it more gravitas. And we wanted my goal was to write a character that didn't feel like white savior. I think a lot of TV, when they write these characters, and they write them in a way that these characters are very condescending, because there is that white saviors do exist, and a lot of them do kind of pat themselves on the back. But I just thought to myself, like, if we kind of write this way in the character, that like, in the way that like some of the political figures are like kind of activists that I like, that are white, that they just happen to be white, and they're like, like somebody like Bernie Sanders or Chris Hedges, someone like that, who's just like, they just feel like they're kind of fighting the right battles, and not make a mention of their race, or who gives a fuck if they're white, like, I just thought it was a good challenge to have this guy be white and not make him a white savior.
Oh yeah, and I also enjoyed that like you said, like Frankie brings like this level of authenticity without becoming a caricature. You know what I mean? Like,
that was big. Yeah.
So
a lot of the characters. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No. Yeah, go ahead. It felt like it's authentic, and it's funny because it's relatable, but it doesn't approach parody or caricature.
Yeah, I wasn't interested in that. I was just sort of like, a lot of the characters are based off of my family members, so I didn't want to one-dimensionalize anybody in my family or just anybody in my life. So I just thought, and also I think, I just like, there's a lot of like, sometimes when you see a lot of like, a lot of cholos in entertainment, like if it's not the American Me's or the Blood In, Blood Outs, it's very cartoonish and buffoonish. Like a lot of buffoonery shit. And I just thought, I'm sure we can make this character very funny, and while still making him feel human and not a parody. And the idea was that if he's going to be funny, or if he makes he's not any smarter or dumber than anybody else in the show. Like everybody in the show, and one of my favorite things was the guy who plays Chef Percy. He's a comedian named Jamar Neighbors. He told me, he goes, "Oh, what I like about this show is that nobody's shit in this show." Like, and then he goes like, "Your cousin got out of prison, but you're a loser and you still live at home." Like, so it was kind of like, you know, nobody's better than anybody. Everybody's kind of equally flawed, and everybody's equally dumb in a way. Like everybody makes mistakes, and everybody has those moments where they look like idiots. So I didn't want to just pin that on the Luis character. I wanted to make sure that everybody looked.
The story goes that when they were doing Seinfeld, their Bible was basically like no hugs, no lessons learned, right? Like, you know, these characters, there's not going to be a lot of emotion. What would you qualify as like the main sort of statement about this fool, like in that vein?
Well, I think it's a pretty thematic show. So like, I think when we pitched this show, we pitched it as Friday, but directed by the Coen brothers. So, you know, I would say, I don't think we're trying to make a morality play. I think there's a lot of shows that like want to educate you and change your mind about social issues. And it's not really my priority. I think that can be kind of boring sometimes. And I just wanted to make a show. I was really inspired by this movie called Killer of Sheep. This movie, this black filmmaker made about a black family in Watts in the late 70s or 79, 1980. And it was a show, it was a movie about just a working class family in Watts, kind of working poor family. And the man of the house was this guy who was who suffered from depression. He was like existential. And he kept thinking, what is life all about, you know? And I just thought, man, that's such a great like character to see in the hood, you know? And I don't know, I was really inspired by that. But I think we try to make a smart comedy that's also not afraid of being a comedy. I think that's kind of the takeaway. I think we kind of live in a time where there's a lot of dramedies. And, you know, like there's shows like that I'm a fan of, like shows like Reservation Dogs, Rami, Atlanta, other shows like that are like, they're not necessarily hard comedies, but they're more on the dramatic side. And I just thought, I wonder if we can make a show that's a hard comedy, but is also smart and cinematic. And that's what we were really going for.
Yeah, and not everything has to be like a dramedy commentary on social issues. I think that just by the fact of having exposure of a Latino community to the audience, I feel like that's already commentary in its own. You know, just exposure, I guess. And I do feel like it's objectively funny. Is that something that you?
Yeah. I mean, I was trying to make this a comedy that anybody can enjoy. That you didn't have to be necessarily Latino to enjoy it. It
happens to be Latino.
Yeah, it just happens to be that way. Fun. Yeah, we were just trying to make something that felt really smart, and I felt like I do feel like we make commentary on things, like we try to make a commentary on class, or like, you know, what it's like to work in the nonprofit sector, and what billionaires are like, or what's it like when you're working class and you're a janitor, and you know how invisible you may feel. But I was trying to showcase it. I wasn't trying to say whether it's right or wrong. I was just trying to show the way it exists, you know? And so that was a lot of it. And that's what we were really aiming for.
And you mentioned two shows when people ask me like, oh, what's this fool like? I was like, I compare it, like I said, very favorably to Atlanta, Reservation Dogs in that they're very true to that culture, but it's a universal show. It's very, it's
and that's what I like about those shows. Yeah, we were really inspired by Atlanta, and then around the time that Reservation Dogs came out, I was also very like taken back and inspired by Reservation Dogs.
Another brilliant piece of casting myself was Hassan Johnson from the Wire. It was like, it was very awesome to see him pop up.
Yeah, I was such a Wire fan that I was just excited to like work with someone who was on the Wire.
Yeah, I had Carlito, who was played naming his son on the show on my other show. So it was like, oh, I got the connection there. It's dope. So the casting, the show happens, and then you're basically saying, I get to make the show, but it's not going to work. I get to write the show, but it's not going to work. I get to film the pilot, but it's not going to work. And then the show's a hit.
Yeah.
Like, when does that text hit you, or when does that news hit you, and like, how does that affect you? Like, how does do you have like a self-doubt moment, or when it's a hit, do you allow yourself to feel like that yeah, it's a hit, I know I wrote it, it's mine?
Yeah. Yes and no. Really just kind of more consumed with the work, so when we were done with season 1 and it came out, we were we were just thinking about season 2. I mean, I'm proud of it, and but I don't know that I sit around and kind of like go, wow, like pat myself on the back or really take it in. I mean, I take it in the sense that, like, once I started going on the road as a comedian, a lot more people were coming, because before the show, being a stand-up comedian, people would come out based on the fact that they wanted to do something that night, and they didn't know who the fuck I was. They just came out to see me, but like they just came out to see comedy. But then, I noticed that when I started going on the road and people started coming out because they were fans of the show, therefore they wanted to see me, and that was the big one that I noticed in terms of like being able to draw on the road like an audience. But yeah, I mean, to be quite honest with you, I always just kind of feel more focused on the work. So when season 1 was out, I was, I celebrated it, but I was also kind of thinking, well, I want to make season 2 is what's on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Have you gotten recognized yet? Sorry, random ass question.
No, it's all good. Yeah. It's weird. I get recognized. I mean, it's like, what's so funny is I think because I think of myself as a stand-up comedian at heart, sometimes when people recognize me from stand-up comedy, I'm slightly more proud of that than the show. Like, yeah, I get a little more excited about that. But a lot of people, when I do get recognized by the show, it's really nice, especially if it's people who like, I get excited by the different demographics that recognize me. I get like Latinos, Black people who recognize me, older white people who recognize me. Like,
what? That's surprising.
Yeah, a lot of older white people, or just white people in general, who recognize me, young and old. When I was performing stand-up comedy in Arizona, and a lot of Native Americans came out from, so that I thought that was, and they were big fans of the show. So it was really cool to see that kind of, that it resonates with people.
Universal.
Yeah.
How tough was the acting part of it? Was it like like season 1 Seinfeld, season 1 the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Did you feel like, or were you kind of did you get coaching on set, or how did that happen for you?
I mean, it was hard because I'm not a formally trained actor. I was like, I remember when I was writing the show with the guys, I said, man, who do you think we should cast as the main character? And then they said, well, you. And I was like, you sure? And they were like, yeah. And it also became because they came out in their own show. Like, they said, yeah, if we were in our show, you could be in your show. Like, And I thought, all right, cool. And it was hard because I try to take it seriously. I like, even though I wouldn't say I'm an actor per se, like, I like acting and I wanted to take it seriously because I think it's an art form. So, I was working with an acting coach and I took it pretty seriously. So I was just, it was hard in the sense that I devoted time to it, or tried to devote a lot of time to it and really learn from the craft.
Did you grow to love it, or like if you had to rank from comedy, writing, acting, what would you say comes first? Obviously comedy, right?
Obviously comedy and writing, but I do like being in things. I mean, I think the thing about it is I sort of like that control factor of like, if I wrote it, I want to be in it because I know what I wrote and I know how I want it to be conveyed. So, yeah, I mean, But yeah, I enjoy acting. I think it's really cool. But I think writing and stand-up comedy comes to me first. But I mean, acting's amazing and it's a challenge. It's a challenge it's an art form I really respect, and it's also really challenging, to really connect and whatnot. And yeah, I really like it.
Absolutely. We are live talking with Chris Estrada from Hulu's hit show. This Fool got picked up almost immediately for a season 2. They're in the middle of production right now. When is season 2 going to come out, Chris? Do you know yet, or
likely August, same as last year.
Same as last year. Nice. And hopefully we get, like last time, we'll get a quick resolution. We'll get season 3 happening. I know it's probably too late. I know it's probably too late for season 2, but if you need an extra, background Latino, or you need an extra an angry chick at a quinceañera or something, you know what I mean? We'll make the drive up for sure, man. I wanted to ask you a couple of real quick questions, sort of about about the show's perception, and then we'll do a quick bit, and then we'll let you go. But I was prepping for shout out to and I saw your bit on with Mr. Big Brown Dad, where you did your morning routine with him. Shout out Mestizo Coffee.
Yes.
He's been on our show before. But on Polly, the Latino Slant, he was like, "Hey, do you want to come on this panel with a couple of other people? We're going to talk about This Fool, Rosa Parra from Latinx Lens and from Rotten Tomatoes." And I did a little research, and there was this podcast or this show that you did, and it felt to me like it was a couple of white people, and and some of the questions they were asking me felt to me like they hadn't really watched the show, because they're like, it feels like a love letter to Los Angeles or something like that, or something, which I didn't really feel like you were putting into the show. Like, I felt your show was more like not necessarily a love letter, but like a realistic portrayal of your neighborhood. When you do get people, non-people of color, I guess you would say, that are talking to you, reviewing your show, do you get any sort of weird vibe from them in terms of how they're covering it? Do you feel any sort of way about that, or was that me just basically just sort of looking too deep into it?
No, I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I think some people really get it. I think there was a really great TV critic. I mean, and I would say she's great, even if she didn't like the show. She's really spot on about things. But I forget, Catherine, I'm forgetting her last name, but she wrote a really great article on the show, which the title was "This Fool is What Streaming Comedy Should Be," and she had a really smart take on the show, I thought, and she had a really good analysis of it that I really enjoyed, and I was really proud of. That I thought, oh, that's great that she's kind of seen it in the way that I try to make it, or I try for it to come off. And then there's also kind of critics who thought we weren't like. There was somebody from the AV Club who kind of shit on the show, but I don't think he had a context for the show. I think I thought to myself, this is a guy from the Midwest, like a white dude from the Midwest. I don't think he has a context for Latinos in South Central Los Angeles or in LA in particular. So I don't think the show made much sense to him. I think he was talking about the show, the way the characters talk, and he said that they're kind of like brass, or they don't speak well. And I go, yeah, but that's because I'm portraying the way I know the characters to speak in the world that they're from. And if you're not from that world, it's not going to sound like, I think a lot of those kind of writers, a lot of those critics is what they like is they kind of like characters who it's like when a Harvard writer writes a character from this working class world to sound very not like they're from the world. Yeah. And so, but I think some people get it. I think some people don't. That's okay. I mean, it's like, whatever, people they're allowed to think what they think.
That's absolutely. It's almost like they expect all the characters to write like they're one of those like teen dramas where all the teens talk like they're 45, right?
Yeah.
Was it by the Vulture? I'm looking it up.
Yeah, it was by Vulture.
The review.
I'm
curious, just because say that she portrayed with
the
what?
She really seemed to understand the show. Her name was This Fool.
Yeah, I got it.
We'll figure it out.
Sorry if I'm coming in with my Wi-Fi.
Oh no, not a problem. It's by Vulture. The article was called "This Fool is What Streaming Comedy Should Be," and yeah, she had a really great like take on the
Mhm.
show. I thought her name is Catherine Van Arendonk. She, I think there's some writers some critics who don't come from the world who get it, and I think there's some that don't. You know, that's
Yeah.
kind of the nature of it. When you create
Yeah.
art, you're gonna be
It's expected.
critiqued, and
As
yeah,
somebody
and
who used to live and die by AV Club, they did fall off over the last couple of years. They got rid of a lot of their key writers and stuff like that, and they replaced them with a lot of people that were new to the industry as well. So that might have something a
Yeah.
little bit to do with it as well.
Yeah.
Not to shit on the AV Club, but they did
Yeah.
fall off a little bit. I did want to ask you a little bit, just in terms of like, because there's a lot of there's in terms of just Latinos in media, we talk, obviously it's the show's called Me Gente Show, so we really do talk about issues that pertain to Latinos in entertainment. But there is this sort of thing about like, we're only allowed to have like one show at a time. Like, we get Vida, and then we get One Day at a Time, and then we get Gordita Chronicles until that gets canceled, and then we get this, and then we get this fool. Was there any pressure, because of that, just because of the fact that it's kind of like in the space in entertainment, we're not getting the chance to have multiple shows? I always talk about the fact that I want to get Latinos to the point where we can be mediocre, because we can, because it seems like for us to succeed, we have to be at the tippity top. We have to make an incredible show. And there's thousands of movies and TV shows that get made just that are just regular, that was there any added pressure because of that, or how do you deal with that?
I guess I just didn't really. I guess I didn't think of this fool the same as those shows, and not to say that those shows are bad or that. I just didn't think of it as the same. I kind of thought it was pretty different from many of those shows, and sometimes I don't know. I mean, I guess there was. I just wasn't. I wasn't thinking about that. I was just thinking about the best show I could make. And I was thinking about like when I was trying to write the show, I wasn't thinking about representation. I was just thinking about what's the best show. Like somebody's, sometimes I wasn't trying to represent anybody, because the show's kind of loosely based off of my life. So, and like where I grew up. So I was really more concerned with trying to make a show that felt accurate to my life. I wasn't like, I didn't want to take on the burden of going, this show is going to
like the big pressure to you were just trying to focus on like the immediate.
Yeah. So, just I saw that. I remember seeing that those shows got like canceled, or they went to another network or whatever. But I guess I just didn't think of them as the same. Like I wasn't trying to make a show like those shows, which is not, and like that's not to say that those shows are bad or anything. I was trying to make something different, and I just kind of was like, I didn't really think about it. I was just trying to make.
You didn't think that was like the same lane, right? You thought you were just kind of like coming at it from a different place, huh?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, got it. Makes complete sense. Sophia?
I mean, it's good. Yeah, and well, it's good when you don't just like, think on the macro scale, and because I feel like that's a lot of pressure to have to write something that's like representative of the Latino community. You're never going to please everybody. So I think.
I think when you kind of write with representation in mind, what ends up happening is you get a check. It starts feeling like a checklist. Like you go, okay, now I got to represent these people, and then I got to represent this orientation, and then I got to represent this and this. And I guess I wasn't. I think when it feels inorganic when. And I thought to myself, we're all different, like, so like, I just thought to myself, like, I can't think about writing a show about representing Latinos, because, like, my parents are immigrants. I grew up with a single mom. She's from Mexico. My parents are from Mexico, and I grew up working class. That's very different from the way, like, Cubans or Venezuelans grow up in Miami.
Yeah,
that's very, they predominantly come from upper middle class. So we don't, while we may have a shared kind of language and sense of culture, maybe, and I just thought to myself that's not really, I can't even. And also, like, I mean, I grew up where I grew up. It's like half black, half Latino neighborhood, and that's who I grew up with. I couldn't think about like, well, how do I? Because people in East LA grow up with predominantly only other Latinos, you know. So or like,
You couldn't
you
make
know,
everybody happy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just really trying to focus on what I wanted to see from where I grew up, and not just that, but like, yeah, just the kind of things I wanted to see instead of representing everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I guess the thought is obviously, you know, whether it weighed on you, and if it didn't, and if you were looking at it from like a fresh perspective of not really trying to, it's probably better for you creatively not to have all that onus on you placed of you of like, you know, representing for the entirety of the community, you know?
Yeah. I was trying to try not to think of that. Like I was trying to just go, I just write the shit that I want to write.
Look,
It's also a personal experience.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lou.
No. Yeah, no. Like I said, as an immigrant and, you know, child of immigrants, and as a Colombian, but I've been I've been surrounded by Mexicans in San Diego for the last 20 years. So it was, you know, the show spoke to me tremendously because our family's favorite president was Reagan because of the 80s amnesty as well. And working in corporate America, we had the giant toilet paper rolls from work, you know, the stuff like that. And I've literally been in the situation, not with a cousin, but with a friend of mine. I was like, come on, man, why don't you smoke some crystal? That scene right there was like, I don't know how it was like, that's so true to life and so like very specific to the experience right there. That's probably my favorite scene in the whole show.
Yeah, thanks, man. I love those darker scenes. I just like some of the darker elements of the show.
Absolutely. I did want to just ask you real quick your thoughts, and then we're going to do a quick bit and we'll let you go. We're talking with...
Oh, good. I got all the time. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got it. No, I just don't want to make sure. Thanks for everybody that's tuning in. Hey, what's up, Mellows? Dropping on saludos. What's up? Kurt had said earlier, comedy is oversaturated these days. Unfortunately, so many people are doing it or trying. I guess, I mean, there's a lot of people trying to break into the industry all the time. I did want to get your thoughts because, you know, we talk a lot about, you know, comedians helping each other, and then also in the industry, Latinos helping each other in the film industry. What were your thoughts on the Ralph Barbosa, George Lopez situation where, you know, he was brought up in terms of like, you know, who is he? You know, George Lopez did the whole thing where, you know, somebody didn't shake his hand when he was a comedian and he held on to it. And then all of a sudden he's in this other situation. What did you have any immediate reaction to that?
Not really. I mean, I'm like, I know Ralph a little bit. I met him like a year ago, and I don't know George Lopez, but you know, it just struck me as a comedian talking shit. I mean, I think to a lot of people were like, oh my God. I mean, he didn't say he wasn't funny. I truly think, I just think he's an older guy.
Yeah, and he's not going to see him. He's not going to pop up on his Instagram feed, you know.
He doesn't know who he is. So, which he should pay attention. I mean, I think it's good to stay relevant and know who young comedians are, you know, like who they are. And, you know, so I think, I mean, I think he was wrong, clearly. I mean, like Ralph does very well. He's a very funny guy and he's a good stand-up. But yeah, I guess I just thought he just sounds like an older dude that doesn't know. And you know,
out of touch.
I just thought he probably doesn't know who I am, and that's okay because I'm you know, he's older than me, and we're from different generations. You know, it's like I always say, it's like, who cares? You know, I always said, somebody one time told me, somebody said, oh, well, what do you do? And I said, I'm a comedian. And then I said, well, I've never heard of you. And then I said, well, who gives a fuck? My mom doesn't know who Jerry Seinfeld is, but that doesn't mean that motherfucker's not a comedian. Like, you know,
I love that.
Like,
So,
you know, I think he said something about like, just worry about yourself. You know, that's how he thinks. You know, I don't think it's a good way of thinking, but you know, I don't know if he's allowed to think whatever the way he wants, you know. I don't know that. I don't think it's healthy, but you know, it's not. I don't know. He's allowed to think whatever, you know.
You said you were influenced, or that you watched a lot influenced by movies and stuff like that. Just because we're filmmakers here, was there like, do you have like some ones that were super important to you growing up, or like the first movie that you like watched over and over?
Yeah,
that really affected you.
I was a big fan of the Coen brothers, so I really love Raising Arizona.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Raising Arizona was a big film for me. Love that movie very much. Fargo was a big one.
Hudsucker Proxy.
Yep, Hudsucker Proxy, Miller's Crossing, Barton Fink. I was a big fan of those movies. I was also a big fan of just kind of like, you know, I liked a lot of Italian films at the time, like The Bicycle Thief and Estrada, and
Nice.
you know, those kind of neo-realist films. I liked a lot of like, you know, Killer of Sheep was a big movie I liked. But I also like comedies, American comedies, like Midnight Run was a big film that I like. I love Friday. Friday is a big film that I love. So yeah, I was really taking a lot of. I just love movies, so a lot of everything from independent films to foreign films to kind of big American comedies. I really like.
Would you ever get into, or have you already directed and produced as well?
Well, I haven't. I've only produced. I haven't directed, but I'd like to. Hopefully, if we get a season 3, I'll get a chance to direct an episode. It's yeah.
I did want to ask you a question about that now that you mention it, because you're a comedian, you're starting off, this is your first show, and it does well, you know, you get the okay that's unexpected, then you get season 2. How do you leverage trying to get everything that you want visual from your visualization of the show versus not wanting to like push the envelope, not wanting to ask for too much, not ask, you know, how do you balance that? Does that kind of with your team, or do you sort of make a conscious effort? Like, we want to ask for this for season 2, but we're not going to ask for these things because we want Hulu to keep liking us and to keep, but we don't want to become a burden. Is that?
Yep.
How do you balance that?
A lot of it comes from me and the guys that I do the show with. We're all kind of in tune in terms of the comedy we want to make and what we want to see and the stories we want to tell. So, you know, I think a lot of it is, I mean, we would never ask for anything too crazy because we like a show that's kind of grounded and a little surreal. So it's not like we would say, hey, give us a thing because we're going to make a huge action movie or we're going to make a sci-fi episode. That's not the kind of show we are anyway. So
This Fool in Space.
This Fool in Space. So
Musical.
yeah, the musical. So, you know, I think a lot of it was kind of like knowing firsthand the kind of show we want to make and then explaining it to them, you know? And so, yeah, I think a lot of it is that. And then knowing tonally that we want to make a grounded show that's a little weird. So that never gets too crazy, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sophia, did you have anything else for Chris?
I wanted to know, like, from, because you said the show is based on personal experiences of yours and that a lot of the characters are based of people that you know. Do they know who the character is based off of them, and what do they think about that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is like, you know, Frankie Quinones plays a character named Luis, who plays Julio's cousin, who's really inspired by my cousin Luis. Like, I just named him Luis, and I kind of asked him if he was okay with it, and he said yeah. And you know, I think he enjoys the show. He knows that the character is not exactly him. He knows that situationally the character is him, but not exactly him. And in the same way that the character Julio is not exactly me, it's like it's a version of me maybe, but it's not really. It's not me 100%.
Like a more over-exaggerated version.
Yeah, and then even, I mean, like all the other characters are, people understand in my family that they're a like my mom was a janitor. She retired this year, but she was a janitor for like almost 30 years. And so she understood that, you know, the mom character was a representation of her, you know, and that, like, you know, my mom used to bring toilet paper home from her janitor job. And so it was clear to her that she understood that. And, you know, I try to be respectful of my family. So I would ask them, hey, I'm going to write this thing that I think is kind of funny. And there's like a story to it. Are you okay with it? And, you know, they were cool with it.
And is the Maggie character based on like multiple different parts of different girlfriends, or is one specific?
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, I think it's based off of like 2 or 3 girlfriends that I had like throughout my 20s, you know, just kind of like,
that makes sense.
You know, kind of shitty relationships where nobody was both parties were at fault, you know? So it was really kind of based off of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then spoiler alert, but the scene where you with the engagement ring and the kicks, that
Yeah.
also another that sent me. That was like out of this world, man.
Thanks.
So what can we expect for season 2? Like, what is this? Is it like a? Because I know you were that the end that the season finale sort of was like you weren't sure where it was going to go, or if it's like, did you sort of write it ambiguously for that reason?
No, we just write it. We wanted to write a season where it was the story for the season, because we just thought we want to be cinematic about it. We want to write narrative in the way that films write themselves, in the way that films are written. So Matt Ingebretson, one of my co-creators, it was his idea to close down Hugs Not Thugs, and he said, I think it's a good idea, because if not, we can become a workplace sitcom. And that's not the kind of show we want to create, where you're always returning to the same place. And, we're not trying to make a version of The Office So he said, I think it's good to close it, because it'll force us to think of a new world, like a new thing. So I thought that was a really good idea. And I thought it was like, I knew it was a good idea because it was a scary idea. Like, it was kind of, it's easy to say, well, let's just have a workplace sitcom. But like I said, that wasn't the show. That wasn't season 1 anyways. It was like a little bit of everything. It was like, it was more of a character study on these characters, more so than it was about a world. So we wrote it to end that way intentionally. And then I guess from season 2, what you can expect is the world sort of changes. And I think it's a grittier season. Like, it's a little bit of a grittier season, and probably a little less family stuff, which I wanted to make sure of, to have a little less family stuff. I'm not interested in making a family show, or, and kind of keep going down that rabbit hole of character study of like who this character Julio is and who is this character Luis is, and more of Michael Imperioli this season, his character.
Nice.
Yeah, so the idea was really to just, force ourselves to think of a new way to revisit the world and make it new again.
Oh, it sounds challenging. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see season 2.
Thank you.
Absolutely, man. Like, look, if it's anything like season 1, and if you got the same team and you keep developing those actors and you keep going down and allowing the creative process to get there, then I'm sure everybody's going to be happy. You can watch This Fool, binge it. If you haven't watched it already, binge it now on Hulu. And get ready for season 2 that'll be coming out hopefully during the summer. You can catch Chris Estrada doing comedy various places around the country. Are you mostly staying on the West Coast right now for comedy, or are you also traveling for that?
I travel. I'm mostly in LA up until April, because I'm filming the show. But once that's over, I'll kind of be doing comedy around like different parts of the country. But people can find out where I'm at I'm on Instagram at Chris Estrada Comedy. And then Twitter at Chris Estrada 85.
Absolutely. And Chris, we're going to do one last thing with you before we let you go. It's something that I like to do with all our guests.
Yep.
And it is something, if I can find the intro for that, I always lose it. It's something that we like to call, here it is, the bracket bit.
All right, boys and girls, you know what that sound means. It's time for bracket bit. Bracket bid. Bracket bid. Woo, 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 woo. Bracket bid. Bracket bid. Woo, 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 woo.
Fireside chats.
Are live with Chris Estrada from Hulu's hit TV show This Fool, filming season 2 now. You can expect it in August. You can follow Chris on Instagram or Twitter and find out where he's doing comedy. This is called the bracket bit, Chris. And what this happens is I'm going to give you 2 options, and you're just going to very simply tell me which one of them moves on to the next round. It's it's literally a bracket. And for you, since you're a comedian with a TV show, we have chosen TV shows that were by comedians. So I'm going to give you 2 TV sitcoms that were created or starred by comedians, and you tell me which one moves on to the next round. You can tell me which one you like the most, which one you would rather binge right now if you had to watch one of them, which one you would prefer to have been in yourself, which one you'd like to remake. Whatever you decide to use for your methodology, you can use it. I just ask that you keep the same methodology for the entire bracket. Are you ready?
All right. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So
Let's
we're going to
go.
talk. We're going to go with one of the classics, Seinfeld or 30 Rock.
Seinfeld.
Seinfeld. We got Crashing with Pete Holmes or The Drew Carey Show.
The Drew Carey Show.
Drew Carey Show. We're going to go Bernie Mac Show or Parks and Rec.
Bernie Mac Show.
R.I.P. Bernie Mac. Bob
R.I.P.
Newhart or The Office UK edition.
The Office UK.
Yeah. Nice.
All right. Everybody Loves Raymond or I don't know why it cut off here. Sanford and Son.
You know, I'm gonna say Everybody Loves Raymond.
Everybody Loves Raymond. And if you want to expand on any of the shows, whether you like them or anything, you can.
Yeah, I think with Everybody Loves Raymond, it's just a show that I grew up on more. So like, as we're like Sanford and Son, like wasn't of my era, but I love Red Fox and like kind of I can appreciate it. Like, yeah.
Roseanne or Home Improvement. Two major 80s comics here.
Roseanne.
Roseanne. The Norm Show or It's the Gary Shandling Show.
That's a hard one because I love Norm Macdonald, but I'm gonna go the Gary Shandling Show.
The Gary Shandling Show. And Chico and the Man, one of the OG sitcoms, or the Jeff Foxworthy Show.
I'm gonna go Chico and the Man on this.
We got
You
Martin.
gotta roll with Freddie Prinze.
You got to roll with Freddie Prinze, man. He's an icon. Martin or the George Lopez Show.
I don't know. That's a hard one.
I mean, you can also go back to like which of the comedians. I mean, this is two huge comedians, and they're both of them very successful shows for a comedian.
That was a hard one.
That's a hard one.
I'll
say George Lopez Show.
George Lopez Show. Curb Your Enthusiasm or Whitney.
Curb Your Enthusiasm all day.
Broad City or Mad About You with Paul Reiser.
I'll say Broad City.
Yeah. I was way too excited about that.
Ellen or Master of None with Aziz.
You know what? I'll go Master of None.
How'd you feel about that season 2? Just put this show in Italy, like.
I didn't care for it. I like season 1. I thought season 1 was really artfully done and really cool.
It was just a weird choice, right? It's just like All right, we got Full House or The Cosby Show.
You know what? Bill Cosby was out there being dirty, so let's go Full House.
We're gonna have to cancel him in the bracket. All right, we got Louis or the King of Queens.
You know what? I'm gonna seem bad because I was like talking shit about Bill Cosby, but
The Cosby Show, gonna go to Louis.
But I'm gonna go Louis.
Yeah, that's right.
Problematic. I love that.
Look, Cosby put up incredibly big numbers in that area. Louis,
that's true.
Mork and Mindy or the George Carlin Show.
I'm gonna say the George Carlin Show, just based off the fact that it's George Carlin.
The Jamie Foxx Show or Community.
I'm gonna say the Community.
What?
I don't remember the Jamie Foxx Show. I don't remember. Was that a sketch show or was it like a sitcom?
No, it wasn't.
It was a sitcom. It was like a live audience, right? Yeah.
I don't remember it as much.
It was good. It was really good. Yeah.
We got Seinfeld or the Drew Carey Show.
Seinfeld all day.
Bernie Mac or The Office UK.
Office UK.
Everybody Loves Raymond or Roseanne.
Everybody Loves Raymond.
It's Gary Shandling Show or Chico and the Man.
Damn, I'm gonna break somebody's heart. I'm gonna go Gary Shandling Show.
This is where I remind everybody that the bracket bid is created to cause maximum pain. We got George Lopez or Curb.
Curb.
Broad City or Master of None.
Whew. I'll go Master of None.
Got Full House or Louis.
I'll go Louis.
They're so opposite.
George Carlin doing the opposite, Sophia. George Carlin Show or Community.
I'll go George Carlin Show.
All right, we're down to our final 16. What's up? Hey, Seinfeld or The Office?
This is a hard one. I think I'm gonna go Seinfeld.
Yeah, it did get the 13 seasons, right?
Yeah.
Everybody Loves Raymond or Gary Shandling.
Gary Shandling.
Curb or Master.
Curb.
Louis or Carlin.
I'm gonna say the Louis Show.
Ooh.
And we got our final four. We got Seinfeld or Gary Shandling.
Jesus, it's hard. I'm gonna say Seinfeld.
Ooh.
And we got Curb and Louis.
God, this is hard too. I'm gonna say Louis.
All right,
Seinfeld
it
and
was
Louis.
almost a
Woo.
Seinfeld versus Seinfeld right there.
Yeah, it was almost gonna be. Yeah,
Seinfeld versus Seinfeld. But in the end, it's down to two masterful comedians and two really good sitcoms. What do you think wins for you here?
it's hard because I love the more cinematic approach of Louis, but I love Seinfeld because it was just kind of one of the first shows that I really fell in love with as a kid, and I thought it was so funny and smart. So I'm gonna say Seinfeld.
All right, Seinfeld. Then
Damn, that was great, man. That was challenging.
You did it. You survived.
You have survived the bracket, Chris. Yeah, no, I mean Seinfeld. And I always ask: is there a TV show or a sitcom by a comedian that I missed that you think that you were thinking, why isn't this there, or another one?
You know, dude, you did a pretty fucking good job of covering those shows. I'm sure there is. I probably can't think of one off the dome right now, but those were great.
Wow, well, let's get 4 more seasons so we can put this fool on that list then.
Hell yeah.
You can catch Chris Estrada in the Hulu's This Fool Binge Season 1, Season 2 coming out soon in the next couple of months. And, you know, the other thing about Louis is the fact that he took such a small budget and he was like, I'll edit it. You know, he's editing on like an iMac. Yeah. He's having full control and stuff like that. That's that's really trusting your art and betting on yourself, right?
Yeah, pretty inspirational.
Wild.
So, Chris, man, absolutely love the show. Like I said, it hit me on multiple levels. The reality, the comedy, the fact that it's a comedy that doesn't have to be Latino, but features Latino, that you're out there doing your job, that you're not taking things too seriously. You seem to have the right attitude, the right approach to it. So I wish you nothing but the best, man. And, you know,
wish you and Sophia nothing but the best as well.
Thank you.
And once
Keep
you get
going.
that,
I love
once you
show.
get that juice for like season 4 and 5, where they're throwing Manny at you, you just say, you know, I want Sophia in and I want Lou to direct. I'm
a great extra.
Yeah, let's get Sophia and Luis in here. Come.
Yeah, just throw me like episode 6 and like a 12 episode. Just one.
Put me in the
know,
background.
I'll do be you in it. I don't care. Anyway, man, thank you for joining us. We'll be in touch with you.
Thank you,
I appreciate you taking the time, man. Thank you for joining us, and we'll let you go, man.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Take it easy.
Thanks, Chris. Bye.
Later, Chris.
Later.
Should I leave the studio?
Yeah, I'll get you out of there, man. But I appreciate you, man. And
I appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me. Truly, it was a lot of fun.
Great, man. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you for giving us your time.
Of course. All good. Thank you, guys.
Peace out.
Am I cutting in and out? My Wi-Fi.
My
Wi-Fi. My wife.
My wife.
It's not great. My Wi-Fi is not good.
Is that what you named your Wi-Fi?
Yes, I guess. Oh man, how you feeling?
That was really good. I like it.
He is, you know what? He is like so humble. Extremely humble. I was very surprised by that. You know, you would think a lot of people that get a show on Hulu and kind of like, you know, have a successful project, especially on the first try, it's like you think their head would be massive, and this guy is just freaking humble. Loves
no, absolutely humble as you can be. Like the fact that he agreed to be on the show, the fact that he was like, gave us his time and stuff like that, when he's obviously has much bigger mediums that are probably covering the show, and to give us Mi Gente Show a shot to interview him and to help us out, because really he's the one doing us the favor, right? We're not really, we're not, we might, hopefully we get some more eyeballs on the show, that'd be great. But in reality, he's somebody that's established, that's got a second show on a major platform. That's an incredibly well-reviewed show. I like the fact that it's one of the only, Latino comedies out there doesn't weigh on him. I really admire that attitude.
Yeah, I know. It made me think of like, man, I really overthink things. Like I get stressed over the little things. I really do. And then the whole fact that he started stand-up at 29, I'm like, I'm 28. So it's very encouraging to see that people can thrive and succeed in the industry, having, what you would call a late start, So.
No, man, it's incredible. And we want to really thank Chris Estrada for being on the show today. It was really an honor.
Absolutely.
Absolutely an honor. Man, it feels like
Yeah.
we've been doing shows every day.
Every day, dude. I know. I'm like, and then I mean, we're gonna get a break, and then Wednesday,
And then we got
back in a big way.
Back in a big way and stuff like that. But you know, hey, at least we're taking advantage of your fun employment to put some more content out there.
100%. Yeah.
And I think this was also a really big opportunity for the show, and I'm glad that we took advantage of it. I think we did a good job.
Yeah, I think so too. Pat on the back. Pat on the back. We're doing great.
Keep it going. So thank you for everybody that tuned in. If you're listening to this episode, thank you for listening. Don't forget to leave us a rating, share with your friends, etc. Follow us across multiple platforms, all that good stuff, so that you're notified. Make sure that you're right here at the bottom. Mi Gente Show. Follow us
Everywhere. On IG, on Twitter, on Twitch.
On Twitch.
Podcast.
Soon, we'll have a YouTube up shortly. And you know, thank you very much for listening. Thank you to Chris. Sophia, any personal news or anything before we get out of here?
Oh yeah, right. None that I can really think of at the moment. No, I'm blanking. What about you? None.
No. I mean,
you do your car.
Oh yes, I do have a car. My piece of my very humble 2005 Honda CR-V that I got passed smog. I'm very happy about that. Yes. So
Hell yeah.
I'm back into the world of the mobile after being stuck at home for the last 7 years.
Little
So
things.
I'm very happy that I get to move around at least. Canceled all my delivery services.
La gasp.
I canceled my DoorDash. I had Uber. I canceled Uber. I canceled Instacart. All that stuff. So when I want food, I have to go out and get it. Or
You're
I can
gonna
just-
save so much money though.
Yeah, and just cook it. Yeah, the other day I wanted Subway. So I went to Subway and it cost me $8 for a sandwich instead of $25. Well, no, I mean, usually the thing about like
Delivery fee tip.
the thing is like, it's like you don't get the free delivery unless you spend more than $15. So it's like you can buy an $8 sandwich and then it's still like $21, or you can spend $15, buy 2 sandwiches, and it's still $21. So it's like, so no matter what you order, if you're getting the free thing, you're still, the cheapest is it's between $21 and $25 no matter what you order from anywhere. And I went and I wanted a sandwich and it cost me $8 because that was what the sandwich cost, and that was it. And I was like, oh, okay. Obviously gas, insurance, security, but you know.
Yeah.
That ain't nothing to a G. That's nothing.
No,
That's nothing. So excuse me. So yeah, big stream next Wednesday. This coming Wednesday, previewing the screen. We'll be doing live streams from the festival as well as other stuff. We're a week behind on episodes, but they're still doing pretty good. So we still have a few episodes in the can. We have the episode with the people from Life. We have the episode with Sony and Jeanette as well.
Yeah.
And we also have an episode with the South of 8 podcast as well. So we got more stuff coming at you. Make sure you're listening, all that good stuff. We love you. Thank you, mi gente, for sticking around.
Yes.
As
Thank you
always,
so much.
Luis
Hasta
Martinez,
luego.
Sofia Carrillo. Hasta luego. Peace out. Peace out.
Bye.
Vamos, papá, hay que irnos. Me estoy aguantando desde que pusieron el domo.
Puedes esperar, muchas personas trabajaron en esta película y solo quieren que te aprendas sus nombres de memoria.
Y yo quiero asegurarme de que ningún animal resultó lesionado durante la filmación de esta película.
Listo. Uy, palomitas en el suelo. Chao.
Esperen, parece que Maggie tiene algo que decir. Diga su primera palabra. ¿Qué escuela?
¡4 años de escuela de cinematografía para esto!